So I've been writing for a while. I originally just started writing and did journaling for quite a long time and had some ideas I wanted to explore deeper. And I had some takeaways that I wanted to share with people. My first book was about like the importance of embracing your genetic differences, like neurological diversity and these kind of things, and what that might look like in a world where people are wanting to eliminate diversity among people, like in neurological issues, and get rid of like autism, ADHD, like Tourette syndrome, etc. That was a whole thing, a lot of learning processes, but I learned about Bitcoin on the journey of writing that book. And as soon as that one wrapped up, I was like, I've developed this skill of writing and a love of writing. And I felt like I just owed something to Bitcoin. I think a lot of people feel this. I, I'm a fundamentally different person for having discovered Bitcoin. I'm way more optimistic. I'm constructive, motivated, just like so many different things. And I felt overwhelmingly like called to do something for Bitcoin, right? Like a lot of people do that. I think that's a pretty normal thing. Like, hey, you're doing a Bitcoin podcast. Like, I imagine you have similar sentiments around that, right? Um, so I just started writing and I wasn't sure where it would take me. Again, I like to pull on threads. Part of the reason I fell in love with novel writing is not because I like had a perfect vision for a story. It's like I know something in my heart like wants to do this, and we're going to see where it goes. So that's all I really started with is I wanted something around Bitcoin. And the longer I spent just like throwing tons and tons of time and proof of work at it, like the thing kind of naturally evolves, which I think is one of the more beautiful things about artistic creativity is you get to just like kind of see where an idea takes you. Um, and it turned into something really cool that was very different than what I was originally envisioning, but it kind of turned into this thing that I wished I could give to people. Like I have tried orange pilling many people, which I'm sure that you have too. And it doesn't typically go that well. I've given like got my bookshelf over here, like the Bitcoin Standard or like Lynn's book. Like I've directly given those books to people. They not gave a single shit about the book and ignored it completely. I was like, man, this sucks because this like these things changed my life and were really positive. So I wanted something that like I could package up in a way where I could give to somebody with literally no interest in Bitcoin that like might read a thriller and see if they could have some like sly roundabout exposure to Bitcoin in the process. So that's kind of what it turned into, where it's written in a thriller format, very captivating, which was tactical in a sense where like different chapters and switching character POVs and like really making sure like it's very quick read and fun read. Um, like having that, but having Bitcoin laced into it, particularly in a way where like it's not throwing technical concepts at you from like page one. You don't even like see the word Bitcoin until like maybe 4 chapters in.
Hmm.
And then it slowly, incrementally levels up to the point where like the way things resolve in the story and the stuff is fundamentally related to how Bitcoin works and what Bitcoin is. So yeah, it's kind of high level overview of it at least.
Uh, I I loved the book. And it is very dynamic. The chapters there's 69 chapters total, I believe. Nice. I remember when I first saw that, I was like, was this on purpose? You're like, maybe, yeah. But they're quick, right? They're snappy. They're keeping you on the edge of your seat. It's a very, I mean, it's an intense book. Also, like it is, as the title implies, like there is blood, and it deals with some really, I think, some of the concepts that it deals with outside of just strictly Bitcoin, right? Because I mean, it's a Bitcoin thriller, but it's not just a Bitcoin thriller. Like a lot of what and without, giving away any spoilers, and I think this is fair to say, a lot of what you get into in the book is really about sort of the class struggle, but then also about, let's say, the American hegemon more broadly. What, our military actions or lack thereof in different places, the marriage of various, political and corporate interests. It digs into a lot of different things, and it also digs into, I think, very largely the theme of anger and resentment towards the current state of things, but approached from different perspectives with
Mhm.
very different methods of, let's say, alleviating that frustration. Was how much of it did you want to be a let me ask this differently. Was your goal in the writing to provide a commentary on some of these things, or just to write a good story? Because I feel like so much now, whether it be the written word, whether it be visual media, whatever it is, so much, let's say, ideology is injected into so many things, often at the expense of the story itself. I don't think that you did that. I think that you just wrote a great story and these things work together naturally. But I'd love to understand kind of your process, because I'm sure you were thinking about that. I'm sure you were trying to grapple with those things as you were creating this story.
Yeah, you were spot on there. That story was first and foremost, literally at every time. Like every time there was a major decision point in the story, or when in writing the story, it was like, okay, everything that always matters is story first. It has to have a great story that matters more than anything else. Great story, captivating, top of mind every single minute of writing that thing. Um, the Some of those things kind of came out subconsciously through me. Like these are things that I'm struggling with and thinking through, and they came out naturally in the book. The theme of violence is high in there as well. I martial arts, I train in like firearms and other stuff like that. I'm very interested in like these concepts of like what it means to like defend oneself and like when you should use violence and that kind of thing. And that was definitely a theme. But in the sense of like Bitcoin, it's like I feel so much like I have 2 people inside me, right? Like I have represented by a couple different characters in the book. I have so much anger towards the way the system currently works and want that to change, like the Eric Kaysen style, like I just want to hang the political class and all these things. Like I have a part of myself that feels that way too. But I also have a part of myself that's like much more pragmatic about the way the world works and how Bitcoin can have a more positive view and a more slight roundabout view perhaps. And I see that in a lot of Bitcoiners too. So it was like, I really wanted to explore that. And I didn't go into it thinking like the story is going to interweave in this specific way, which like, the story eventually kind of comes together, right? Um, I didn't have a super concrete plan for that right away. I just knew I wanted to explore these concepts and kind of see where it took me. Which writing is a weird trip. It's kind of like a self reflective process. You kind of like learn about yourself along the way. Um, you sort of like don't know where it's going to take you. Like writing it, like I wrote the last chapters of that when like Bitcoin price was at like under 20K. And the very first iteration of it, like it was terrible, but I kind of like found parts of it in different times. And I was sort of different people back then too. Like you're kind of a different person every day. And like you go over the book and edit it through a lens of like the different parts of you. Um, and through enough work and just like sitting down and doing lots and lots of stuff, it comes like lots of parts of yourself come out through the story. And I definitely think I had a lot of that formed those things. It's maybe not as clear of an answer as you were hoping for, but like that's kind
No, no, no.
of like writing is very much like it's a scatterbrain thing, or at least the way that I do it. And there's a lot of different ideas that end up getting melded together just because that's who I am. And that just like, wow, that's what I wanted to see in a story.
No, I loved it. I think that was very clear as I was reading. And then obviously, talking to you about it extensively in the process of recording the audiobook, just to make sure that I was, I was going to understand the characters and the motivations well enough and everything. It was very clear, though, even just the first time reading it, that I was seeing, again, without trying to give too much away, a couple of the characters in there very much were representing sort of two sides of your own experience, two different, or perhaps the same ultimate urge, but two very different ways of expressing that urge of trying to bring about the future, the reality that you want, into very, very different sides of the spectrum in terms of how that's approached. And I think that, again, to your point, that is something that as Bitcoiners, I know I personally, I saw my own kind of, mental struggle in that thing that we all go through where it's like, you want to, and I'm speaking in hypothetical terms here for anything, for any of the censors out there, who may want to flag this. Please don't remove this. This is too good a conversation to rip off. But that's why we're doing it on Nostr. And thank you to everybody who has zapped this already in the live stream on Nostr. Appreciate you all very much. But that struggle of, I want to fucking burn this thing down, and what rises from the ashes, will be so much better and more glorious and more fair and more true and more honest. And then also, like, boy, if we burn this motherfucker down, a lot of people get hurt along the way. And I also don't want that to happen. That's not that. There must be a different path. There must be a middle path. There must be the path of absolute complete peace. We need to, just metaphorically burn this thing down and utilize the incredible open source technology, the freedom tech that we have, whether it be Bitcoin or whether it be Nostr, whether it be different forms of encrypted communication. We need to use those tools, and that will help us usher in this future, but in a very peaceful way. But it's like those two ideas so often necessarily come into conflict with each other and with reality, right? There's the world, or as we would like it to go on, and then there's what actually happens, right? And so I think that was just that was a really impactful part of the book, was seeing both you as the author, seeing you come through, and then realize yep, I'm seeing a mirror into myself as well. I'm seeing my own experience. I've had these same sorts of conversations, with myself or, with Carla, with other Bitcoiners. Like, it is a very, very relatable experience. And the way that you presented it was through the mindsets of multiple characters, which I thought was a brilliant way to do it. You didn't try to wrap it all up into one person having a struggle. No, it was actually the struggle of the characters with themselves, but also with each other. And I thought that was from a literary perspective, I thought that was very, very effective.